How viruses cause pandemics. Hello everyone, welcome to Facts, Fiction and Stories. Today, I want to explain how viruses cause pandemics, which are outbreaks of infectious diseases that affect many people across the world. You may have heard of some of the most deadly pandemics in history, such as the Spanish flu, the Asian flu, the Hong Kong flu, the bird flu, the swine flu, and more recently, COVID-19. These pandemics were all caused by different types of viruses that infect humans, birds, and animals. But what are viruses exactly? And how do they invade our cells and make us sick? Let's find out. What is a virus? A virus is a tiny particle that contains genetic material, either DNA or RNA, surrounded by a protein shell. Some viruses also have a fatty layer called an envelope that they get from the cells they infect. Viruses are not alive in the usual sense because they cannot reproduce by themselves. They need to hijack a living cell and use its machinery to make more copies of themselves. There are many kinds of viruses that infect different forms of life on Earth. Usually, a virus can only infect one kind of host, such as a plant, an animal, or a bacterium. But sometimes a virus can mutate and jump from one host to another. This is how some of the pandemic started, when a virus that normally infects animals crossed over to humans. How do viruses invade cells? To infect a cell, a virus has to attach to a specific protein on the cell surface called a receptor. The virus has a matching protein on its surface that acts like a key that fits into the receptor's lock. This triggers a process that allows the virus to either enter the cell whole or inject its genetic material into the cell. Once inside the cell, the virus takes over its functions and forces it to follow its instructions. The virus uses the cell's resources and tools to make copies of its genetic material and proteins. These parts are then assembled into new viruses inside the cell. Eventually, the new viruses escape the cell by breaking its membrane or by budding out from it. This often kills the cell or damages it severely. The new viruses then go on to find more cells to infect and repeat the cycle. How do viruses cause disease? When a virus infects our cells, it can cause different kinds of problems. Some viruses can kill our cells directly by destroying their membranes or organelles. Some viruses can interfere with our cells' normal functions by blocking their pathways or stealing their nutrients. Some viruses can trigger our immune system to attack our own cells or cause inflammation and tissue damage. The symptoms of viral diseases depend on which cells and organs are affected by the virus. For example, respiratory viruses like influenza and COVID-19 can cause fever, coughing, sneezing, sore throat, shortness of breath, and pneumonia. Gastrointestinal viruses like norovirus and rotavirus can cause vomiting, diarrhea, dehydration, and abdominal pain. Nervous system viruses like rabies and polio can cause paralysis, seizures, coma, and death. How do viruses spread? Viruses can spread from person to person through different ways depending on their characteristics. Some viruses can be transmitted through direct contact with bodily fluids like blood, saliva, or semen. Some viruses can be transmitted through indirect contact with contaminated objects like needles, towels, or utensils. Some viruses can be transmitted through airborne droplets or aerosols that are released when someone coughs or sneezes. The rate of viral transmission depends on several factors, such as how contagious the virus is, how many people are exposed to it, how long it can survive outside the host, how effective the immune system is at fighting it off, and how available preventive measures are, such as vaccines or treatments. How do we prevent pandemics? The best way to prevent pandemics is to stop viruses from spreading in the first place. This can be done by improving hygiene practices such as washing hands frequently, covering coughs and sneezes with tissues or elbows, avoiding touching eyes, nose, and mouth with unwashed hands, and disinfecting surfaces regularly. Another way to prevent pandemics is to reduce contact with potential sources of infection, such as sick people or animals. This can be done by practicing social distancing measures such as staying at home when possible, wearing masks when in public places where physical distancing is not possible or where there is high risk of transmission, such as indoor settings, avoiding large gatherings or crowded places where ventilation is poor, such as bars or restaurants, and isolating oneself if sick or exposed to someone who is sick. A third way to prevent pandemics is to boost immunity against viruses through vaccination or natural infection. Vaccination is a process that introduces a weakened or killed form of a virus or a part of it into the body to stimulate the immune system to produce antibodies that can recognize and fight off the real virus if encountered. Natural infection is when someone gets sick from a virus and recovers, developing immunity that can protect them from getting sick again from the same virus. However, both vaccination and natural infection have limitations. Vaccination may not be available or effective for all viruses, especially new or emerging ones. Natural infection may not confer long-lasting or complete immunity, and may also cause severe complications or death. Therefore, it is important to follow the recommendations of health authorities and experts on how to prevent and control viral outbreaks. Conclusion: viruses are tiny particles that can cause pandemics by invading our cells and making us sick. They can spread through different ways and cause different symptoms depending on which cells and organs they affect. We can prevent pandemics by improving hygiene, reducing contact, and boosting immunity. I hope you learned something new today, and if you did, please like, share, and subscribe to Facts, Fiction, and Stories for more science and health videos. Thank you for watching, and stay safe.